we're currently in the process of effectively replatforming Hewlett Packard Enterprise. So completely greenfield S4 implementation, new e-commerce platform, new quote to cash, new CPQ. So literally you can think of the entire core operational footprint is being totally replaced. New corporate data warehouse, the whole 9 yards. And so you can kind of see, a couple of stats. We run the company historically on about 850 core business apps. That's coming down to just a little under 400. And then you can see the ERP number there. So we're moving from the footprint that ran the $110 billion Hewlett Packard. We don't need that footprint anymore to run with the focus that we've got now. So we're going down to the greenfield S4 implementation, and so that's and we're right in the middle of the transformation. So we're live from a global financial standpoint. So we're closing the books on S4. And our quarter end close, etc. Our first order management release just went in just a couple of weeks ago, so we're starting to move all the order management processes in, and our new e-commerce platform, which is on Hybris, is also up. So quite a bit of work, quite a bit of heavy lifting. It's end-to-end runtime. It's about 10 quarters, which is for the scale of what we're doing and how much we're touching the business processes. Because it's not just a system consolidation in terms of the 10 ERPs to one. It's literally fundamentally changing a lot of the business processes and stuff. The user experience is totally different for the operational users. So lots of change management. Taking folks that have worked with SAP, we've run SAP for a couple of decades now. And we have a lot of from the HP lineage, we have lots and lots of long-term employees. So for folks that they might still be in an operational role, and they have been for their whole career. They might literally have been working, and we have this. People have been working in the SAP GUI for 20 years, and all of a sudden, it's not SAP GUI based anymore. It's in a web browser, and it's a different look and feel, and it's a different functionality, and different analytics, and the whole 9 yards. So just a whole bunch of change management that we're going through at a pretty good clip compared to what we have done in the past. So our past efforts in terms of ERP deployments, we're moving, it's 3 times as fast as we historically have moved. So just lots of change. And then I think there's a stat up there in terms of the master data. So a lot of foundational stuff in terms of narrowing down the architecture and how simple it is. So anyway, that's a very, very 90,000 foot level, just quick.
That might be the shortest version of that you've ever been asked to go, right? So, to kind of set the stage here, so Pointnext is part of HPE, and we were Dave's customer to do the design, implementation, and operations, and the technical integration for our S4 implementation. So first off, let me ask, I've got a couple questions here, but really I'd like, if you guys have any questions, I want to go straight to that.
But before you do, Mike, I just wanted to add a thing. When Dave came to us and said we were going to do this in 10 quarters, we said, are you crazy? You were going to do all this in 10 quarters, and we did. So it was a pretty heavy lift, as you can see, and we figured out a lot of efficiencies as we went through the process. So Dave is pretty much the brainchild behind this, and Peter and I led the deployment teams to make this possible. So just to kind of give you an idea of what we did. So it was a very rapid, high energy. I mean, I can tell you we had 72 hours we went, right?
Yeah.
Sleepless nights and get this working.
Yeah, and it wasn't just we're standing up new systems. This is all done in brand new locations. Right. So different data centers, the whole 9 yards. So I mean, it's literally, there wasn't a knob we weren't turning. So and turning it in a very non-material way, if you will.
And I might add that one of the purposes of this program is we want to effectively drink our own champagne, if you will, right? Because we don't need our own dog food anymore. But we were one of the first users of our new great Superdome Flex platform, and this is one of the first go-lives ever.
First one.
Yeah, first one for S4 on the SD Flex. So one of the reasons we want to do that is we want to make sure that everything runs great for our customers.
Yeah, so legitimately, so I'm from internal IT, so I'm not here as a sales, representative, even though obviously I want to represent the company as well as I can, right? But just so these two chaps here next to me, who are customer facing, but these, legitimately these are the guys that we're working with to actually do our own internal stuff. So you literally can work, directly with the same people that are working on what we're physically deploying. So, and then to Mike's point, our new Superdome Flex platform, we're first out of the gate. So, and that is something we take pretty seriously in terms of, it's a little hard to look at guys in the eye and say, put your mission critical, operations on something if we're not also demonstrating that. So,
So any questions or? No? Yeah, sure.
I know they have worked with him in the past from Galway office. I don't know if it's a webinar or not, but it's Radha.
Oh, shout out from the crowd today. All right. Was there a question? What businesses are we consolidating? Dave, can you...
which businesses or which types of tech? Yeah. It was, yeah, that's a fun question. So it was different for some of the different BUs. Okay, so there was, like, for our supply chain operations, that was, regional. We had some other areas that were global. So it was, and some of that was just from history, from different acquisitions. We had the EDS acquisition, we had all these different acquisitions over the course of years. So it was a little bit of a mixed bag depending upon which slice of the business that you were looking at. Almost all of it was SAP though. So different versions of SAP. We did have some stuff that was non-SAP, but it was, that was a small amount. That was just from some acquisitions. So this is much more holistic and different approach. So.
Hey, so talk a little bit about what were the techniques that you used to make the project successful? What sort of was the secret sauce? What was it?
I think, and we had a little lessons learned discussion, yesterday, which was that can be, it's hard to do it justice in the time we have, but we had, really clear tops down business support, the level of business alignment. This is nowhere close to an IT, a traditional classic, IT modernization project, right? This is full on major business implications, it was anchored on, our customer and partner experience, and kind of a redefinition and vision for what our CEO wanted the new company to be. So that was kind of the anchor of what drove the transformation, and we call it HPE Next is what the transformation name is. And that is a company level CEO sponsored transformation. The IT component of that happens to be, it's the biggest single spend, so it's a big part of it, but it's not the IT wasn't the tip of the spear, if you will, in terms of, because you can't drive the kind of change that we're driving without serious business commitment. So the business alignment was fundamental. Our CEO is actively involved, very involved, knows probably more about the project than you think he might. He's very committed. He's very committed to see it through and see the transformation goals. There are all the traditional IT things that you might expect in terms of the cost reductions and everything that we're after, and all of that was designed, laid out, the financial modeling ahead of time, and the amount of governance and rigor is really, I can't stress it enough. I mean, we're trying to go fast, but the amount of rigor in terms of hitting the dates, it's not optional. And so that always introduces some difficulties, because these things are never easy, right? And there's always bumps in the road, but the governance, the top-down support, the business IT alignment, because when things get tough, right, that's when it stresses the alignments and the commitments and all those kinds of things. So just that level of business alignment, being able to partner with you guys sincerely, to be able to move super quick, and then do it all on our next generation stuff was also really key. So. But just the level of alignments and making sure that everybody's locked, loaded, everybody knows what the North Star is. I mean, this thing was planned out, financially modeled like crazy before we.
And I've heard the governance and rigor. I've heard that from so many angles on how important it was for us to be successful. Ed, maybe you can touch on from a resourcing perspective.
Some of the components from the SMEs that needed to be involved in the project were really important. And they grew as we got into designing the project and delivering it. First of all, and also I think it grew, strong PMO. You need a strong PMO. You're going to have various sub-work streams in there. You're going to have tie in your SI plus your infrastructure teams. Some components that we brought to the table. Really important, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, we were talking about Fury, mobile capabilities. That's one. You have to ensure cybersecurity is involved. Networking, major involvement in that. Firewall settings, we're using F5 load balancers, certificates, everything you need. So it's just not, when you get into these projects, it's not you can assign a couple basis consultants and that's it, or infrastructure guys that are spinning OS. Okay, then you get involved in the compute and storage design. And most important, we brought in also a performance team. So we have a performance team in Germany. We had them attached to the team all along, okay? So they were making sure, because the most important thing, we're changing how we do business. The worst thing to do is have an hourglass or object not found or something going on. So performance is so important because you're trying to give your user a good experience. It's a change, so you want to make sure that shift in culture is positive. Peter, anything else that you recall that we added to the team?
No, I think another really important thing is the synergy of the team. And it's so frequently nowadays is that you have silos of skill sets. Our team had cross-functional skill sets, very strong in different areas. So as Ed said, your networking, SAP security, cybersecurity, infrastructure, what else am I missing here?
Well, what about like one of the hurdles everyone often talks about are operations and ongoing management of the solution at the end of the day. Talk about what that solution was and how that was provided.
Ed, you want to answer that one?
Yes, I can answer that. So what we did was we built the systems. The build team stayed in as what's called hypercare. So instead of handing it off to our managed services team and then bringing them in brand new, they were actually part of the build team, okay? And the build team stayed, so there was a coverage of about a month and a half when both teams were working together and they understood the environment. So when it was handed over to that team to operate, it was done without any hesitation. They jumped right in. We had all the monitoring tied in and everything like that. Just to diverge too, one important thing too, and if you're going through this journey, SAP security, okay? S4 is not Suite on HANA, it's not ECC. Finding those resources, do your due diligence when you talk to the people. We spent quite a bit of time interviewing candidates. Everyone has done it. Everyone did it, even though we didn't know most of the implementations. We talked to probably 30 candidates. Okay, so we've built a team that has. You have to make sure they have S4 experience. Okay, because the roles and how you roll out SAP security is totally different. Okay, we're seeing that today in a lot of the customers that we're talking to. We've had that conversation about not understanding how to design SAP security because they're used to the old ways of doing profiles and authorization. That has been a monumental shift. Okay, now.
So that gets into and Ed was touching on it and you're building on it. Man, that is a super critical topic because and I'll just build on Ed's comment real quick and then come back to yours. But like on the security role topic, a lot of times most of the users they memorize their T codes, right? And that's just how they operate. All of a sudden you define all these roles and it's actually defining as security roles, actually defining the Fiori layout and our actual total experience. It's the center of their universe. And if you just slam that stuff together without thinking through from a user outside in, a persona type experience, you end up with a user that logs on that's just, it's just tiles everywhere. It's not coherent, doesn't look coherent, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not, it's not even close to being impressive. And then on a more broader level, just you can go all the way to, you've got an actual app that doesn't have a single line of ABAP anywhere in it, right? Which is like, almost unbelievable from an SAP standpoint if you roll the clock back a little bit, So taking your resource base and actually making sure that they actually know the new technologies, how you do, if you're actually doing an extension or a customization, how you can technically do that on top of S4 is totally different, and uses totally different tools than anything that anybody has ever done on top of ECC. And it's not using even the Eclipse, ABAP-based tools. It's totally different, right? And so you can easily get yourself into a heck of a lot of trouble real quick if all you do is just, lift your resource base that's worked on a traditional ECC environment and just drop them in. And you have, no governance, you have no training, no governance, no rules around how much code push down you're doing versus, all those things, right? It's, I think people really underestimate the amount of change, and doing it. The little conversation we were having yesterday on some lessons learned, and this is just personal opinion, but doing S4 right is very different than your traditional. And the problem is that you can still go into an S4 system, and you can still go to AC38 and start knocking stuff out, and all of a sudden you just started recreating the past, But that change, and for long-term SAP people, I've worked with SAP for a long time, it's big. It's legitimately pretty big, and I think it's underestimated. So we're private cloud and brand new greenfield implementation. But that's it's another good point, like the how you do the extensions, right? That's how we're doing the extensions in terms of anything that's go forward. It's the exact same that you would do if you were actually doing an extension on the public cloud. Now, if you're on-prem and in a private cloud, technically you have the ability to do it in the old way, but again, it's a governance choice that you've got to make sure that you're proactively managing, making sure your folks are trained, because it has big implications over the long haul.
So great questions, and thank you. We're actually going to have to wrap up. We actually went a little bit over, but I want to thank everyone for their attention. Especially I want to thank Pete and Ed and Dave for taking the time.